On today's show, severe winter weather creates one of the world's most unique outdoor moments. Bold souls brave Lake Superior. We meet 3 Alaskan grizzly bears that ended up here in Minnesota. And we take a walk in Minnesota's second most popular state park.
Minnesota Bound. Brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. You know, it's kind of funny. It seems like when our worst winter weather hits, a group of people always wants to get outside and stare Mother Nature right in the face. Today's first story proves that point. Photojournalists Kyle Heidenreich and Josh Bryant chase a winter storm and an epic Lake Superior tale. Surf's up.
Today we got this big snowstorm. We haven't had any big snowfall so far this season in the metro. Our biggest snowfall has been 3 inches. This is gonna be a wetter, heavier snow, and we could be looking at well over that amount. It's gonna be a big range though, even across the metro. We're talking anywhere from 2 to 9 inches from northwest to southeast. So this is a perfect day for high waves and strong winds on Lake Superior for places like Duluth and the North Shore. The fetch, as we call it, is coming all across Lake Superior. So hundreds of miles of open water so the waves can build. Air's blowing from Thunder Bay in the northern end of the lake all the way south. Best chance to get big waves will be today.
Well, you know, anytime there's a big storm coming, that's when you start looking. So your goal is to find a time when the waves are big and you can see them coming from Canada down from the northeast, and you want to catch it right when the wind shuts off. You get pumped, like you have all this adrenaline coursing because you've got all this anticipation, and it's really hard to go to sleep that night. It's like right before going to Disneyland. In California, there's lots of surfers because it's easy to get surf. In Minnesota, you have to work a lot harder. It's not just handed to you, and you're gonna have to drive. Once you get there, it's pretty much get suited up and into the water as fast as you can, because every second you're outside that car and not in the water, you're losing heat. It's cold. I mean, you're sitting there in water that can kill you. It's really interesting because you do get used to it.
If you're a water person, it's great. If not, it's kind of like, why would you get that cold to get out in the water to do that? But it is worth it. You just got to be safe. This lake is alive for sure.
Every time you see somebody get hit by one of those waves, their hood is getting flushed with ice cold water.
You know, Minnesota's one of those places that you gotta enjoy being outside in the winter. Doesn't matter if it's cross-country skiing, or fat biking, or snowshoeing, or surfing.
When the swell comes, you gotta be ready and be available. If you can only surf weekends, you're only gonna get 1 or 2 days of surf a year.
I think it's just a bunch of suckers from California like me who want to surf, and this is what we got.
You know, it's really freeing because you can really spend a lot of time in life getting caught up in work and family and all your obligations. But when you're surfing, there's so many moving parts, you can only focus on that. It doesn't allow your mind to travel on to all those other things that stress you out and distract you in your daily life.
It gets colder. This is medium cold. We've been out there 0 degrees.
I was gonna try to save up a little energy and then come back in here, try to warm up and get back out there.
When I come out, I also have a very clear head. It feels like I'm in a really kind of zen place.
My mouth's a little bit numb too. I can't get all my sounds out.
A lot of guys that surf is their church. It's a lifestyle, it's a choice. There's no equivalent.
Up next, grizzly bears invade Minnesota. Hang tight, we'll explain.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers, Rapala Ice Force, Star Bank, and by Connecticut.
Up next, Laura Schara shares a tale about 3 bears, but probably not the story you're thinking about. Instead, this is a yarn about 3 Alaskan grizzlies that somehow ended up in the land of 10,000 lakes.
During a Minnesota winter, it can be tempting to hibernate. But if these guys are awake in the winter, what's our excuse? Meet the stars of the Minnesota Zoo's Grizzly Coast exhibit. Over 10 million people have visited the bears at the Minnesota Zoo. We met them indoors, behind the scenes. And during breakfast time,
you can see in here they have a plethora of all sorts of things that they like. It's all human grade, so we don't get any kind of leftovers from grocery stores. We buy everything from the same vendor that you would. We're really into safety around here, so the line on the floor is basically when we do have guests in here, everybody has to stay behind the yellow line, and you'll get a little bit spoiled because you're with me, so we'll let you cross the yellow line. Sadie is right here. This is Sadie. Sadie. And this is Haynes. And this is Kenai.
the 3 grizzlies combined tip the scales at over 2,500 pounds.
You drop it, or he drops it, just leave it, and one of us will pick it up.
There you go, buddy. You said that they get their favorite treat, which is an Oreo cookie. And it's not very often, but every once in a while.
No, so
why is that their favorite treat? And I notice it's lemon and not chocolate.
Well, today it's any kind that was in the freezer. We were kind of like, since we don't use them a lot.
Eating habits aside, not many know these bears share a story that begins with Diana and the bears in Alaska and ends in Minnesota.
The Minnesota Zoo had requested 3 bears from the Alaska Fish and Game Department, and for this new exhibit that the zoo was building, which is Rush's Grizzly Coast.
Diana was working in Girdwood Portage, Alaska at the Wildlife Center when 3 orphan bear cubs were found in quick succession.
At the Wildlife Center, I was working with the animals, and these bear cubs needed to be sort of hand-raised because they were orphans. And so I was given that task because there was nobody else to do it. And so that's how our story begins. And throughout the summer, they stayed at the Wildlife Center. And this was 2006. Sadie was found near Sadie Creek. Kenai was found on the Kenai Peninsula. And Haynes was found in Haines, Alaska. Okay, and there's Sadie. She was poster child from day one. She was always the charmer. They think they're related, but they're not. They came from 3 different parts of Alaska, 3 different times.
The bear cubs were already scheduled for the Minnesota Zoo when Diana heard about a job opening. Where else? The Minnesota Zoo's new Grizzly Bear Coast exhibit.
So I applied and I got the job. And so I got here in May of 2007. And then the bears followed in April of 2008.
The bears were flown to Minnesota, welcomed into the zoo, and reunited with Diana.
So I think there was some kind of familiarity with me and my voice, and now I think it's all over and done with. They know who I am, and here we are. Here we are.
So now Minnesota has its own story of the 3 bears. The 3 bears and their mama bear.
Coming up, we take a walk in one of Minnesota's most popular state parks. And later, we get up close and personal with our national emblem.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Minnesota Rebath.
Gooseberry might be Minnesota's most popular series of waterfalls, but this great summer destination is about much more than just moving water. It's time to take a walk in the park.
Here we have several sets of waterfalls all in the same place. People love to get right up and see the waterfalls and listen to that beautiful sound. To get here. There are accessible trails, and they're just plain beautiful. So how could you not want to come see the waterfalls? It's quite a romantic setting too, I've heard. I know there's a lot of weddings that take place here, and probably a lot of marriage proposals as well. Gooseberry Falls is right on the shore of Lake Superior. It's 13 miles northeast of Two Harbors. You probably would not be surprised if I said that the waterfalls are the main feature, the focus of the park. So right behind me is the lower falls. And just above the lower falls is the middle falls. The middle falls stretches all the way across the river. And usually you'll see pictures with the Middle Falls and the bridge just on the horizon behind it. Just above the Middle Falls are the Upper Falls. The Fifth Falls is the one that's out in the park, kind of in the wilderness. It's quieter, it's more peaceful, it's a beautiful hike up there. Gooseberry Falls State Park was designated as a state park in 1937. Just after it was purchased, the Civilian Conservation Corps and the National Park Service moved in to develop the area. CCC did a heck of a lot of work here in the park. And today when you're here, what you see around you is the work that they did. Like picnic tables, the entrance sign, there's a water tower, the chain link fence down on the picnic flow. All of that is CCC stone construction. They use local stone from Duluth and from up the shore, and you can see that almost everywhere that you go in this park. The waterfalls were formed through eons of time. 1 billion years ago, we had the continent crack apart and a lot of lava flowed out in this area. When the glaciers melted, water channeled across the landscape, and the water cut down into the lava and formed the Gooseberry River Gorge that you see behind me. Some of the rock layers are harder than the other layers, and as the water erodes the softer layers, then you start seeing the stair steps of the waterfalls being formed as well. waterfalls have been here for thousands and thousands of years, and they will be here for thousands and thousands more years. So I know the park will stay popular. It's a beautiful place. Bringing people for the first time here and watching their reaction, watching their children climb on the rocks or step into the water. It's just a lot of fun.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Mountain Dew, River Valley Power and Sport, and by Totem Resorts, the premier destination for world-class fishing.
Today's Minnesota Bound Classic takes us back almost 18 years to a day when Ron Schara decided to take a closer look at Minnesota's migrating bald eagles.
Come springtime in America, some places are simply good for your soul.
Oh, who do we got flying over here? Let's see.
And this is one of them, here on the banks of Old Man River, when spring comes flying by.
You know, you really can't tell male and female eagles just one or two perched alone like that. There's really no difference. They both have the white head and tail. This is an adult bald eagle.
They've just sort of started to appear now. A lot of them are.
As director of the National Eagle Center,
that's a young one.
You could say Mary Beth's job is to watch people
upriver here. Look at them all.
Watch eagles, watch fish.
This is the prime time for eagles, of course. So you've got a number of the adults, anywhere from 200 to 300 birds at winter, all from November through March, up in the northern part of the refuge here up by Wabasha. And then you go 300 miles south at the southern tip of the refuge, and you've got a lot of immature eagles that head further south. And now they're starting to come. There's an eagle right in this tree over here. Look at that. Just right on. The traffic is moving, and this eagle's just sitting there. That is great.
3 decades ago, it wasn't so great. Our national emblem was headed for extinction from chemical poisoning in the food chain.
I didn't see my first eagle till I was 12 years old, and I remember that day. I remember that day up in Orr, Minnesota. I saw that eagle come down. We were fishing as kids, and there weren't a lot of eagles, you know, then, and it was a very significant day for me.
Once there were only 500 pairs of bald eagles left in the lower 48 states. Today, that number is 5,000.
People should come to see eagles because it really, it's a quality of life thing. I think by seeing an eagle, you've just raised the bar on your life experience.
Now eagle watching is a booming business in river towns like Wabasha, home to the Eagle Center, and in wide spots along the Great River Road, like Reed's Landing.
They spend the winter here, and then they migrate north when the summer comes. That's what's happening.
Among the eagle gawkers, the Zarnowski family.
Look at that wingspan. That is huge.
This is nature's version of family entertainment, and it's free.
They are just spectacular.
But the performances are limited. These eagles will depart soon to get on with their own lives.
I mean, I've watched eagles for over 20 years, and I still get excited when I see them fly over. Or, you know, there's just something about it that hits us in the, you know, right here. We've had folks from all over the world here to come and see eagles. It is something that inspires them, and it's a joy.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, we Americans proudly sing, and we should. Our skies once more are filled with eagles.
Wabasha, a great springtime destination right at Ice Out. Well, that about does it for us today. Both Ron and Raven are back next week. But in the meantime, don't forget to introduce a kid to the great outdoors.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800-899-7433. get more Minnesota Bound, including full episodes, go to mnbound.com. And to follow our latest adventures, like us on Facebook.